Hi guys, in this video we're going to be making Zero from Nightmare Before Christmas. So I've got a little cake drum, I think it's a 5-inch one I've got here, and I'm going to use the Leped modelling paste for this one just because I haven't got time to let it dry and it firms up quite quick. So I've dyed a little bit in a grey colour. I've just used my normal food colouring paste for this, and we're just going to try and get a little bit of a box shape, slightly cubed. Change for my smoothers to pat it down, get it to shape. I want to narrow it slightly at one end. I'll just trim a little bit off the bottom there. This is going to be the base. And for the top, we're going to trim so that we get a point. This is going to be our little dog kennel. And we're going to draw in the door at the front, just using my Dresden tool and a little arch around there. Push it down a little bit with your fingers. And then we're going to write Zero in with the tool. I usually start near the middle and then go out either side to make sure it's roughly central. And I want a tiny teardrop of some more of the grey that's going to go in the middle of this doorway. Just using the bottom end of my Dresden tool to push in what look like little eye sockets. And then we're just going to cut a couple of tiny little shapes for ears. So just push those onto the top of the head. And then we can move them around a little bit. Now it doesn't dry too quickly, doesn't this stuff? So you've got a little bit of time to work with it. And we want 2 long thin pieces for the crossbones. We'll just give them a bit of a push down to keep them in place. And then we're going to work on creating the shapes at the end. Again, I'm just using the Dresden tool. It's a little bit fat there, so we're going to trim a little bit off the edges there. For the roof, we're going to roll out some more of our grey. Keep it reasonably thick still. We're going to cut one edge nice and flat, which is going to go on the back. Now, it fits quite nicely at the front if you need to take some off the front if it's too big. And I'm just going to trim down either side, just like that. Give it a bit of a smooth. And again, using the Dresden tool, we're going to put a line down the front at either side of that roof. And then I've just got the bottom end of a piping nozzle. You can use anything with a rounded shape to it. And we're going to put in some tiles. And then what I'm going to do is, under each of those round bits, we're just going to push that in a little bit deeper. And then we'll add some more. Keep going upwards, overlap them. So they look a bit like fish scales. Little line up near the top. Again, like we did with the bottom bit, we're going to indent under each of the semicircles just to make it a bit more 3D. Gives it a bit more depth. And you're just going to do exactly the same with the other side. And we're going to roll out some more grey. So you should still have plenty of grey left. I made loads of grey just in case. And I'm going to mark out a rough cross shape. So once I've got it marked out first, I can then trim around it. Now it might be a little bit big, so I might end up trimming a little bit further. There we go, mark whereabouts it's going to go. So just make sure you've got a nice sharp knife for this. We want a point at the bottom end, and we're going to push that on firmly in place on the front of that roof. Now we're going to shade. I'm just using a dry brush, and I'm using the black dusts. So these are edible. I've got the rainbow dust one here. I'll put links in the description box below to everything that I've used, including the Leped. And I'm basically just dusting it on anywhere where there's going to be a shadow. And it just makes quite a big difference to what it looks like. Now, I've had to dye a bit more grey for the base. Now, I'm not going to fully fill my cake drum. The cake drum that I'm using is more just to rest it on, ready for when I want to use it for something, so that I can manoeuvre it easily. If you know you're going to leave it on a cake drum, you can roll out the grey to the exact same size as your cake drum. And we're going to put some lines in using the Dresden tool again. I'm going to try and do them all coming from different directions. Keep going until you've filled that space. Now, if it doesn't feel very flat on the top, just give it a bit of a push down with your finger so you've got a nice flat surface to sit the doghouse on. Now, you shouldn't need any water to stick this stuff together. Just give it a good firm push, like that. And then also give it a bit more dusting like we did with the doghouse itself, concentrating on the edges up around the bottom of the doghouse. And I do apologise, I had lost my voice earlier this week and it's just starting to come back now. So I've taking a bit of my white, again it's just the Leped I'm using. I'm rolling a long thin teardrop, and I'm going to cut a line through that pointy end of my teardrop, which will become Zero's mouth. I'm going to trim a little bit more off one half of it, and I'm just using the bottom end of my paintbrush to push in little eye sockets, so one at each side, just to make sure they're similar in size, like that. It looks like a little bird's skull. And then we want 2 long thin pieces that we're just flattening slightly with our hands. Just give each one a little bit of a wave or curve. And these will become the ears later. Now, I'm not planning on eating this one, so I'm going to stick a cocktail stick into the back of the head. If you want to eat it, use a piece of spaghetti rather than cocktail stick. Again, we'll add a bit of shading, so we're going to go anywhere that wants to be dark, so the inside of the mouth area, just go nice and deep with the black dusts, like that. Then we want to give him 2 oval eyes, so start with a ball, you're going to roll slightly oval and just squish that in place. Same for the other one. And you see the black's quite messy, I'm now covered in all sorts. For the body, I've got a bit more of the white. I'm trying to make a little bit of a sort of tent shape slightly. And then we're going to put a cut in the middle so that it slots over our cocktail stick. Make sure you've got plenty of cocktail stick at the bottom end, because that's going to be what secures it into our doghouse. Give it a good push on, make sure it doesn't feel like it's going to slide down. And we're going to push that in to the front like that. If you need to use tweezers or pliers to get it in tighter, then do. And then we've rolled a sheet of white. It's not ultra thin, isn't this? I'm going to cut almost a triangle, just slightly flat at one end. Now I'm probably going to need to trim a little bit more off, but we'll just try stretching out these corners a little bit. Okay, and keep going. So if it doesn't quite fit in the space, just trim a little bit off the bottom end until it fits in there nicely. Just fold it around. Just going to try and blend it in a little bit with the back of my Dresden tool. And then we can push the ears in place. Now if the ears are too big, they won't stand up on their own, they will fall off. So I've tried to keep it quite small. Play around with them so they look like they're flapping about in the wind, like that. Just gonna mucky him up a little bit with some of the black dusts, just catching the edges of him, like that. And I've just got a tiny, tiny ball of orange for the nose, which we're just gonna poke a tiny hole in so that it will sit onto the end, like that. You will have to be a little bit careful with it so you don't knock off the nose. And then you can use that on a cake, or you could just keep it as a decoration, as I tend to do. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Do be sure to check out my other Halloween tutorials on YouTube. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video and would like to see more, please click on the images of the other videos suggested. Also, please do subscribe to my channel using the button at the bottom right hand corner of the screen. You can also visit my cake website and my Facebook page to see more cakes and ideas.